Alright, hello to the YouTube. So today I just wanted to go over really quick the differences between sport and automatic, which is the little S right there, just underneath the D, which is drive, versus a true manual. Now, sport, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and show you going up this hill. Right now I'm in 6th gear, and that's in sport mode, as you can see by the S. Sorry about the shaky camera. Now, if I floor it in a manual, it won't do anything. It'll just stay in 6th gear, and it won't. You have to shift your own by yourself. But in this, if I floor it, the computers take over, and then it will stay in 3rd gear unless you shift up, really. So I gotta press this paddle shifter right there to shift, and in order to get that to shift, you gotta press these paddle shifters to shift up when it's in sport. Now, the thing is that with certain cars in sport mode, when you're pressing the gas, it will shift regardless, and it won't keep it in the gear you want to stay in. So if I press on the gas really slowly, it won't do anything. It's still in 6th gear and my foot is to the floor. But if I just stomp on it, then it will. So I had to press that paddle shifter like 3 times to get it to go into 6th gear. And then you can also just press the minus shifter and shift down as well. Like I'm going downhill, I'm pressing the shifter, and that will slow me down, but it won't shift up. Now, pretty much the difference is when you're pressing that, you don't have to let off the gas at all. You can just keep your foot on the gas when you're pressing these little shifters right there and there. So with a manual, you have to press in the clutch, which would be down below your feet, which, as you can see, there's only 2 pedals here, the brake and the gas, and normally your clutch would be over here. So normally when you want to shift, you would push your clutch in, and then you would shift with the little console shifter, not console shifter, but the shifter up here, you would put it into whatever gear, then you would essentially let off the clutch, press in the gas, and go. Whereas this, you don't. You can just stay on the gas and press the shifters. Now, that's not a true automatic. I'm just going to say that right now. That is not what an automatic, or that is not what a manual does. Forgive me, I said an automatic. I know it's confusing to a lot of people, but pretty much what I'm trying to say is that manual transmissions are nowhere near as complicated. Well, not as complicated, but they don't always make computer systems in them. So when you use an automatic, it's going to be quite a bit different, regardless of if you have it in sport mode or not, as opposed to a manual. A manual, you can keep in whatever gear you want, and it'll stay in that gear permanently until you shift out of it. Whereas most sport systems, this one's actually pretty good for a sport, for just a modern automatic, and it's just a standard XLT Ford Explorer here. Now, this one's actually kind of good, given the fact that when you put it in a gear, it'll mostly stay in whatever gear you want until you physically have to shift it. And that's kind of the good thing, is that it lets you stay in that gear a lot more than some other sport modes. Like we have a Toyota Camry, you put that thing in sport. I don't even know why they have a sport on that thing. It shifts constantly. That thing is always hunting for gears. And what hunting for gears means is when you put it in drive, like for instance, I'll put it in drive right now. This is just normal driving mode. It's always shifting up and down whenever you let off the gas. See how it's shifting constantly? You give it a little bit of gas, and then it's always shifting. That's called hunting for gears, because it always has to hunt for the right gear to give you the optimal power band. Now, when you put it in sport mode, for instance, like right now, I'm going to put it back into sport, and I have it in 3rd gear. It'll stay in 3rd gear for the most part until I shift out of it. Like, it will not shift up on its own. Like, I can just keep it in 3rd gear for as long as I want. It will not shift up or down. It'll just stay in 3rd gear. Like, there's no shifting. That's what you would prefer if you're driving and you don't want your transmission to be overworked. A lot of times, that's why a lot of people like manual transmissions. They can just leave in 6th gear. See, like with this one, I can leave in 6th gear, but the transmission's not optimal for RPMs. So when I have this in 6th gear, if I go over a little hill or around a bend, I can have my foot to the floor, and it will start slowing way down. But a manual, I can have my Mazda, which is a manual. It's a 6-speed manual. I can have that in 6th gear and be going up a hill twice this size of a hill in this thing, and my car will keep gaining speed in 6th gear. Whereas this, granted, this is much heavier, so you have to think about that, but Where this, if I have in 6th gear, I have to shift down using the minus shifter like that. I'd have to shift in the 5th or even 4th gear for the same size hill I could leave my car in 6th gear. So I'm just trying to explain. I know it's kind of complicated and I'm probably overcomplicating it. Pretty much with sport mode, long story short, sport mode just gives you the power to switch between gears, but it doesn't give you complete control. It only gives you about 85% control for most of them. Now, certain ones like that Toyota, speaking of, that Toyota, you put that thing in sport, it still shifts on its own. It just shifts constantly. It never stays in one gear. It's always shifting. Sport, automatic, whatever mode you have it in, is always shifting. And that's a 2015. That's 2 years older than this. But that thing is always shifting. It's just the most annoying thing. Because where I come from, I like to just keep my car in one gear versus shifting constantly, because it just helps with the transmission. And not only does it help with the transmission, but it also helps with fuel economy. See, like right now, I can just leave it in 2nd gear, it won't do anything. Like, it won't shift up, won't shift down. I mean, if I floor it, then it won't. See, it still stays in 2nd gear until I shift it. See, I like that because I can control the gears. It won't be shifting continuously, and that doesn't wear out your gears as much, and it doesn't wear out your engine either, because your engine isn't going to be revving up as high as often. It's just a better thing for the car all together for the most part. Now, in a manual transmission, like I said, you don't have to worry about it. Like in a manual transmission, I could have kept my car in 6th gear right through here. We're going down to a 40 mile an hour zone, and I'm just going a little bit below. But I could have kept my car in 6th gear and been going 40 miles an hour, no problem. This thing, if I keep it in 6th gear, the RPMs will be like at 1,000, and then it will want to shift down. Now, that's another thing about these automatics, is that when you get to a certain speed, like I'll show you, like I'm going to keep slowing down. There's nobody around me. So I'm just going to keep slowing down. Eventually, it will want to shift out of 4th on its own because it will be going too slow and the computers take over. And if you go a certain speed, the computers take over to prevent it from stalling. So if I just keep slowing down and it will get to a certain speed, like I'm going to be making this turn here in a second. And by the time I get around this turn, it will shift into 3rd automatically. And there it goes. It goes into 3rd because it wants to prevent it from stalling out on you. That's the computers taking over. That's another thing with these sport automatic transmissions. You can never completely beat the computer. I mean, you can turn traction control off, you can do all that stuff, but you're never going to beat the computer. That's just how it is. There's all these systems in place to prevent from stalling, to prevent accidents, all this stuff that they have nowadays that they didn't have 50 years ago, which is a reason I guess I like stuff from 50 years ago. There's not all these baby monitoring systems in cars now that there is nowadays. There wasn't all that time ago. But that's just something I wanted to kind of touch base on, because I've looked up on stuff, and a lot of people say like, oh, it comes with sport, but it's in manual. It's not manual. It's close, but it's not a manual. If you do not have 3 pedals on the floor down there, it is not a manual transmission, and it never will be. This is close. Like I said, like I can leave it in 4th gear and it will not shift out unless I floor it. Like if I floor it right now, I'm not touching anything. My hand is right there. I'm holding the other hand with my camera. It takes over. But then it won't shift up. It only shifts down. That's just to give you optimal performance, I guess. That's just computers taking over, which is relatively annoying. But that's just how it is with some things. So I just kind of want to touch base on that, because like I said, I've read a bunch of stuff, a bunch of car reviews and stuff. And for whatever reason, they say like they'll put like let's say like a Mustang or something with an EcoBoost V6, a 10-speed auto. They'll sit there and they'll say like, oh yeah, it's got these paddle shifters on there. Now obviously it's a 10-speed automatic. That means it has 10 gears. They sit there and say it has oh yeah, it's a 10-speed auto, but it's got these paddle shifters. They'll be shifting and using these, and these things are kind of fun to use. I mean, they're really simple when you're driving down the road. You can just be like, I can put it in 2nd gear, 3rd, and whatnot easily. Like I can just use one finger just to tap that button really quick, and then just, you know, shift up really quick and shift down really quick. It's pretty quick versus like my car, where you'd have to push the clutch in, which means like, let's pretend that's the clutch. I push that in, I grab this, and then I put it in 1st. then I go, and then I put it in gear, put it in second, then third, and so on, versus that. But this is a lot quicker, just hang that once with your finger. Obviously, it's an automatic. Automatics are normally quicker unless you get a really old one. So pretty much my point here is that if you are in the market for buying a used car and you get a automatic and it has this function on there, this panel shifter function, this might just actually save you a transmission down the road if you know how to use it properly. If you're driving down the road in an automatic and it's always shifting up and down, up and down, up and down from first, like, let's say you're going 35 miles an hour and it's always shifting between fifth and third gear constantly, and you can put it in sport and just keep it in fourth gear, then it will save you a lot of trouble many miles down the road. Like, this car has 81,000 miles, and, you know, we've already felt it not slip out of gear, but it has some harder shifts once in a very blue moon. It will be like if you're going second gear and you're going very slow and it shifts into third because it's an automatic, it shifts on its own. When it shifts into third, it will sometimes make a hard shift where it will shake the truck just a tiny bit, and you can feel it because it's constantly shifting up and down, up and down, up and down. Meanwhile, if you keep this in sport, and you can just keep it in second gear instead of having it shifting between third and second constantly. Like, if you're going down a stretch of road 1 mile and it's just between second and third gear, 10, 15 times versus you just keeping in second gear and it doesn't shift at all, it's going to definitely help out the transmission down the road. And when you're going down the highways as well, like where the thruway and stuff, where 65, 70, 75, depending on where you are, you can put this thing into sixth gear and put it in sport mode and leave it in sixth gear, and it won't be shifting up and down as you're going down the highway. And when it's in sixth gear, staying in sixth gear, staying, let's say, around 2,000 RPMs, going 65 miles an hour, versus, hit the button, versus it shifting up and down between sixth and fourth gear on the highway, you're going to probably get 2 or 3 miles per gallon better fuel economy with it just being in one gear. That's another reason I like manuals, is because I can just leave it in one gear and I get much better fuel economy. Now, automatics, modern day automatics, like these brand new ones, these 10-speed autos and stuff, they get amazing, exceptional fuel mileage. Even though they're shifting a lot, they do get a lot better fuel mileage than most cars, when manuals do, I have to say. But I still prefer a manual. But I just wanted to kind of touch base and tell you guys a little bit about that, just because of the things that I've read and people saying how when you put it in sport mode, which is S, when you put it in sport mode, it automatically becomes a manual somehow, and it doesn't. So don't get fooled by somebody saying, oh yeah, it's got sport, you can shift on your own, you can shift all by yourself using these little panel shifters here, you can shift on your own with those. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it does and it doesn't, because when you have it in sport mode and you're driving down the road and you're pressing these little triggers, half the time the computers are going to still take over. So it's not a true manual, and don't be fooled by somebody saying that if you want a manual, you need to get 3 pedals. That's pretty much the end of it. If it doesn't have 3 pedals, it's not a manual. So I just want to make a quick video just to kind of touch base on that, and kind of just go over the differences and tell you guys a little bit of what I know and what you guys might be able to look forward to in the future when you're buying your own vehicle. So hopefully this helps some people who might be confused, and yeah, so hopefully this helps. Have a great day.